I got passed over for promotion while emotionally exhausted people advanced. Here is what I missed. You keep showing up, delivering results, staying professional, wondering why results are not coming. But here is the unforgettable truth. Emotional fatigue just does not drain your energy. It silently kills your invisible behavior that actually drives the career growth. In this video, I will show you 6 ways emotional fatigue sabotages your career without noticing based on whatever I have watched. Stall talented professionals in real companies, not what career professionals sell in their webinars. Because the work you are doing is not the problem. It is the energy you no longer have for everything that matters. LinkedIn teaches hard work, consistency, deliverables. Real advancement requires relational energy, strategic visibility, emotional availability for opportunity. And impact 3, that is the one that cost me 18 months of career momentum before I realized what was happening. That one is coming. Every impact I am about to share focuses on the invisible career behaviors emotional fatigue destroys, not the obvious work it affects. Because promotions do not come from doing your job well. They come from having energy left over for the things that get you noticed. Coming to the first impact, the first way emotional fatigue sabotages your career is simple but deadly. You stop building relationships. When you are emotionally tired, you become purely transactional. You come in, do your tasks, attend the meeting you are supposed to attend, and then leave. You skip lunch with your colleagues, you skip coffee chats, you skip informal conversations, not because you don't care, but because you don't have the energy. Everything becomes just get through the day. Here is why this kills the growth. Promotions do not come from performance reviews alone. They come from advocates. They come from people who talk about you when you are not in the room. They come from trust, familiarity, and relational capital. Relational capital is built in the unplanned moments. The conversations, the check-ins, the how are you really doing moments, the context, the shared context. When you are fatigued, you consciously choose isolation over connection. You protect your energy by withdrawing, but actually what you're doing is disappearing from the social map of influence. The fatigued version looks like this. You skip your lunch, you skip your coffee chats, you keep your head down, you minimize your interactions. The thriving versions look like this. You intentionally invest in relationship capital even when you are busy, because you understand that careers move through people, not just performance. Your work can be excellent, but if no one feels connected to you, no one fights for you. Emotional fatigue does not make you tired alone. It quietly removes you from the invisible network where opportunities are decided. The second impact is what I called the professional invisibility. You are in the meeting, your name is on the invite, you are technically present, but emotionally and mentally, you are just trying to survive the hour. You don't ask questions, you don't offer ideas, you don't challenge assumptions, you don't try to build on other people's points. You just listen, nod, and wait for the meeting to be over. Why? Because emotional fatigue drains initiative, it drains courage, it drains the willingness to step into the spotlight. Here is why this kills growth. Leadership does not notice who just attends meetings. Leadership notices who brings energy, clarity, and perspective into the room. Visibility does not come from being loud. It comes from being mentally and emotionally present. The fatigued version looks like this. You attend passively, you stay quiet, you avoid drawing attention to yourself. The thriving version looks like this. You engage strategically, you contribute thoughtfully. You show presence, even if it is just one good point or good question. And here is the plain truth. When you are invisible long enough, people stop seeing you as someone who is going somewhere, not because you are not capable, but because you are not showing up in the moments that shape perception. Emotional fatigue does not just drain your energy, it slowly erases your professional signal. The third one is subtle, and it is where a lot of talented people get stuck for years. You can't advocate for yourself. When you are emotionally tired, talking for your work becomes emotionally exhaustive. You think, I will just keep delivering, someone will notice. You don't bring up your wins. You don't ask for stretch roles. You do not initiate your career conversations. You just hope your effort speaks for itself. Here is the problem. Your work does not speak for yourself. You do. Leaders do not see everything you do. They see what is visible, what is repeated, and what is framed in terms of impact. If you are not part of the narrative, you are not part of the decision. The fatigued version looks like this. You stay quiet, you wait, you hope. The thriving version looks like this. You share impact, you ask for opportunities, you make your contributions legible. Self-advocacy is not arrogance, it is clarity. It is helping the system understand where you are adding the value. Emotional fatigue makes you shrink. It makes you choose silence over visibility. And over time, that silence is interpreted as stagnation, even when your output is strong. The fourth impact is when you start saying no to the very opportunities that leads to career growth. High visibility projects, stretched assignments, cross-functional works, new responsibilities. On paper, these are the only things that build reputation and trajectory. But when you are emotionally fatigued, all you can see is the extra load. You think, I can't handle more. I just need to survive what I already have. So you protect your current capacity. You stay in your lane, you choose safety over exposure. Here is why this kills growth. Careers do not grow inside comfort zones. They grow where there is visibility, learning, and perceived potential. The fatigued version says, I need to protect my energy at all costs. The thriving version says, I take calculated strategic risks that expand my profile. This does not mean saying yes to everything. It means being intentional about saying yes to right things. Emotional fatigue does not just limit your workload. It limits your future by making every stretch feel like threat instead of investment. The fifth impact is when your learning becomes private or stops altogether. You stop asking questions in the meetings. You stop exploring new areas. You stop showing curiosity, not because you don't care, but because learning requires emotional energy. It requires humility. It requires risk. So you stick to what you already know. You stay in your comfort zone. You avoid situations where you might look inexperienced. Here is why it kills growth. Leaders do not invest in people who look static. They invest in people who show trajectory. The fatigued version looks like this. You stay safe, you avoid exposure, you repeat what you already know. The thriving version looks like this. You learn visibly, you ask questions, you show that you are expanding. Growth is not just about what you know. It is about whether others can see you growing. Emotional fatigue makes you conserve your energy by shrinking your world. But careers grow when your world expands. The final impact is when the emotional fatigue becomes most visible and most costly too. You start reacting instead of responding. Small things irritate you, feedbacks become personal. Pressure makes you defensive. You snap, withdraw, or shut down. Not because you are unprofessional, but because your emotional bandwidth is already exhausted. Here is why this kills growth. Executive presence is not about intelligence. It is about emotional regulation under pressure. The fatigued version looks like this: reactive, defensive, and brittle. The thriving version looks like this: composed, strategic, and resilient. When leaders look for people to trust with bigger responsibility, they look for nervous systems that can handle complexity, conflict, and uncertainty. Emotional fatigue does not make you tired. It makes you look less reliable under pressure, even if your technical skills are strong. And perception matters. Stop thinking your work will eventually speak for itself. Because while you are heads down delivering, someone half your output and twice your energy is building relationships, raising their hands and getting the opportunities you are too exhausted to pursue. Believing you will focus on your career growth after you catch up on your work is a trap. The catching up never ends. That is like waiting for traffic to be clear before you start driving. The system keeps you buried by design. Once you understand how emotional fatigue sabotages growth, you stop optimizing for output and start protecting your relational energy. Career advancement becomes intentional, not accidental. You become someone who rises because you have energy for what actually matters, not just what's urgent. If you are a mid-career professional tired of working hard in silence while others advance, this channel is for you. Subscribe for strategies on managing emotional fatigue, protecting your energy for what actually drives your growth, and building career advancement without burning out. I break down what actually works in real companies with real pressures, real solutions for sustainable success threads, not what gets reposted in motivation threads.